Hello to you and welcome to this final episode of the podcast dedicated to Taiwan. The end of my journey is eventful as I lose my passport during a wild night out. At the same time, I rediscover Dominique, my boss, in a new light.
CP Wings, le podcast.
Chapter 15, Shift in Perspective.
I finally just arrived in Taipei, or rather I should say, I'm finally back. After touring Taiwan, I know I have a better understanding of how this country, its society and its people function. I have 2 weeks left before heading off to New Horizon. I found work again, in a hostel, in exchange for accommodation. My schedule is carefully planned, just one more day before I start. It's the perfect opportunity for one last big night out with a good friend of mine who studies in the capital. We finished the night in the early hours of the morning near the Triangle, a club run by French people that attracts a lot of students and some locals. The entry fee includes a free drink, perfect for warming up before heading to 7-Eleven to raid the whiskey section and enjoy the rest of the night. I stagger back somehow to my old apartment. The next morning, waking up is brutal. A jackhammer in my head, confusion. Thankfully, that was the last one, I thought, as I gathered the things that scatter all over the floor. Suddenly, a cold shock hits me. Where's my passport? I'm a specialist when it comes to losing things. I have a knack for making everything I touch disappear. Once I had gathered my thoughts and replay my night in my mind while showering, I immediately set out in search of my passport. I called the taxi company, contacted my friend, went back to the Triangle, notified the local police, begged nearby shops, and even talked to the cleaners who diligently tried to keep that student area as clean as possible every morning. My search was fruitless, and my only option left was to contact the Belgian consulate in Taiwan. After expressing my situation to the representative hidden behind the thick glass of the counter, she suggests a solution, a temporary passport valid for 6 months, allowing me to leave Taiwan and return to Belgium to apply for a new one. Oh, my hopes for a long trip shatter. My ticket, already booked for Vietnam a month ago, was going down the drain. Intense disappointment. An early tragic end to my journey with all the downside that came with it. Returning home, waiting for several weeks, and spending a lot of money to return to Asia. I frown, but accept my sad fate until I try a last-minute ID. I'm in a bit of a bind because I have a working holiday visa. I will have to go straight back to Belgium, even though I could stay longer in Taiwan.
Oh, you're only working holiday visa?
My interlocutor asked.
And how long have you been here, sir?
Oh, it's been almost 6 months.
Oh, then you're eligible for 6 more months?
Yes, that's correct.
Listen, in that case, I can extend the validity of your temporary passport by 6 months. This way, you can stay in the country for a year without having to go back to Belgium right away.
Oh, that would be amazing. I was planning a trip to Vietnam soon. Can I still leave the country?
Of course. With the passport valid for 12 months, you can still travel for 6 more months wherever you want.
I was ecstatic inside. I would still be able to travel for another 6 months before returning home. I filled out the necessary forms, provide the photos, and other information needed to issue the temporary passport. I would just have to come back and pick it up in a few days. While I had been working at the hostel for almost a week, I received a message from Dominique. Abandoned by my former colleague, the young stereotypical May, he needed a hand for an event in Taipei. At first, I laughed. Then I decided to ignore it. Shortly after, as I had just finished my shift at the hostel, a note phone call from Dominique snapped me out of my lethargy.
I really need you. I was counting on May, but she's in trouble with the police right now.
What do you mean?
She was supposed to work, but she was arrested by the police. She called me using a friend's phone.
But what happened?
Someone sent her the package with a weapon. At first, the police thought the weapon was meant for her.
Oh shit.
Someone obviously wants to scare her. She can't come to work at the moment and I'm overwhelmed at the booth.
Caught off my guard, my conscience kicked in and I decided to help, considering I had finished my shift. I told Dominique that I could only help for a few hours. He accepted my offers and suggested we meet a few hours later at the booth near Taipei 101. Memories from those early days big and floating back. The smell of caramel tickled my nose again, and I almost started to enjoy cooking those waffles I had grown to despise by the end of December.
Thanks for the help,
Dominique says to me.
It really means a lot. Plus, you know how everything works, and we're saving a lot of time.
These first sincere thanks from my boss are surprising. I'd never heard them before. The next surprise was probably the crowd we encountered. Gone were the days of being bored, standing in front of waffles that slowly hardened on the grill under a coating of pure sugar. The rush was real. Melted caramel splattered my t-shirt, nestled under my nails, and burned my skin again. I wasn't working alone. Dominique was by my side, adding that final touches to the preparation. The customer would receive their order, eyes wide with amazement at the sight. They would smile, grab a fork, and after quickly cutting up the first pieces and devouring it within seconds, smile again with a groan of satisfaction.
非常好吃.
Which means it's delicious. The recognition for our work was there, and I saw pride in Dominic's eyes. I ended the day on a positive note. That's when Dominic made me a proposition.
Seb, why don't you come work the remaining days? In exchange, I can give you a place to stay so you don't have to sleep at the hostel. And I cover your food too.
I agreed for 1,000 NT per day and a ride to the airport since I was supposed to leave the night after the event's final day.
Deal!
Dominic replied, shaking my hand. The deal was sealed. I headed back to my hostel and checked my phone, which I had left aside while working. Fiona had sent me a message. She wanted to know how my new life was going. So I told her about my misadventure since our breakup or my departure. She responded rather quickly and I tried suggesting we meeting up.
Sounds nice. We can hang out with my friends too. Since I have a boyfriend now, it might not be a good idea to meet alone.
Maybe yes. I'm still up for some hiking around Taipei if you know some. It felt like a slap in the face. Did she really check out to check in on me or just let me know that she had a new boyfriend? I mean, we never spoke again after that. In a similar vein, a few hours later, I received a message.
I might be wearing some sexy lingerie for our meeting up, just saying.
Noémie was supposed to come to Taipei for a few hours the next afternoon. I couldn't help but smile. More than 350 kilometers separated us. I don't know if it was really chance that was bringing us together, but in any case, I wasn't going to miss this opportunity. Noémie was by far the girl I had the biggest crush on in Taiwan. Our conversation, our shared interest, our age, our worldview, everything made me feel something strong was happening between us. Without me revealing anything, without me saying a word, it was incredibly easy to communicate with her and understand what she was feeling. We had even talked about the show Rick and Morty by Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon, a little gem of animation co-created by the creator of Community. In season 3, Rick is determined to try the limited edition Szechuan sauce that McDonald's made for the release of Mulan, Sweet and Sour Racism. It was an ongoing joke between us that would lead to a bit of a frustration the next day. On our way to find a love hotel, I decided to stop with Noémie to hunt for that famous sauce. We were unlucky despite the fast food chain announcement that it was bringing it back to the show's fan demand. Still in the same playful mood, we ordered, 30 or 40 nuggets. We went to a motel, old habits die hard. During that brief hour, we made love like a lover just released from prison. And afterward, we indulged in those nuggets, stark naked as our post-coital treat. It was a beautiful way to say goodbye, sharing one last moment of intimacy, craziness, and adventure. After those goodbyes, it was the time for me to collect my temporary passport and keep it somewhere safe to avoid any future losses. Just when I thought my day was over, I received a message from Pierre suggesting we grab a beer in the park. I hadn't seen him since he got fired. With his shaved head and faded jean, he had certainly changed. Freer than before, more easygoing, he had broken free from the chain that reflected his unease. We talked for a few hours, swapping stories about our different job, our hookup, and our misadventures. Determined to stay in Taiwan, he was looking for a job that would allow him to stay and eventually get sponsored. We parted way, wishing each other the best and hoping to see each other again in the near future. The day could have ended there, but I had also suggested to Joyce and Lynn that we meet up before I left. It was a unique chance to grab a bite together and catch up our lives and what had happened since the earthquake. We had each experienced that event and its aftermath differently. It had taken us time to move on. Without a doubt, that bad memory was far, far behind us as we talk about our future plans. It was a tender moment shared between the three of us, reminding me of the best times in Hualien. The next day I had my bag with me, ready to meet Dominic for the event and end these 3 days on a high note. I must admit, I had never seen Dominic work so hard. Attentive to the curious and the hungry, he threw himself into it, doing everything he could to attract customers. The days were busy, with no rest, hours and hours without stopping. The cash register filled up with bills, the waffle pack dwindled rapidly, and the dark circles and sweat out on our face. Finally, the business was thriving. It was a success. After all the failure, I was almost happy for Dominic. This time, it's well deserved, I thought. In the evening, once the event was over, we returned to the central kitchen to prepare the dough for the Liège and Brussels waffle. Afterward, we headed to a restaurant to meet a few Dominic's friends. We sipped in on a few beers and ate like kings. Dominic paid for everything, never refused me anything, and didn't seem to care about the cost. Later, we returned to his home, where his wife was waiting with their little daughter. Often upset, she seemed to resent Dominic for his long work days. He didn't react, took care of the little one until she fell asleep, then talked with his wife to calm her down before heading to bed. That's when I realized my view of Dominic had drastically changed. He wasn't the bad guy he often come across as. Of course, he has plenty of flaws. Neither Tio nor Chow will tell me otherwise. Yet, I found myself feeling sorry for him. I never really knew if I had changed my mind about him or if he had simply evolved and done some soul searching. The last day of work was long, followed by a tiring move of all the furnitures and machines back to the central kitchen. During the drive, I couldn't help but quietly watch the scenery pass by, taking in one last whiff of the horrible smell of stinky tofu and the sewer stench from certain neighborhood downtown. Once we were back at Dominique's, yet another argument started with his wife. He decided to call me a taxi, shook my hand and wished me all the best. On the way to the airport, I saw those past 6 months flash before my eyes. My summering attempt at Mandarin, the waffle, Mary, Fiona and the trekking, meeting Dominique, Lucy, Pierre's transformation, May and the strange situation that she seems to be tangled in, my Taiwanese commercial, my solitude in the Northeast, the earthquake, the encounters and share moment in Dulan, Kending and its breathtaking landscape, Noémie and her steamy night, Charles and the restaurant. The future has never looked so bright, filled with its share of surprise. Amaze me, surprise me, make me cry, make me live at 100% for crying out loud.